Well, it's a beautiful morning today. 41 degrees. Sun is just rising on Gas Peak. And here's a 360-degree view. There's the beast. We're at the end of Rainbow Avenue. And we're getting ready to head up Gas Peak after an amazing summer in the Mount Charleston wilderness. Okay, what we're going to do is taking the learning that we had last year. We actually made it. Okay, what was the extent of our experience last year? Here is the summit of Gas Peak in the center. And you see this knob here. We made it to the right side of that knob, and you can see the distance between that knob and the summit is not too great. That is about 300 feet as far as altitude, and the summit of Gas Peak is actually right about 7,000. So we were at over 6,500 feet. Got into a wrong turn up there, but now last spring we pieced together, winter and spring, we pieced together the whole route, and now know what is needed to get to the top. Now, one thing that's working in our favor is that last week I was on Mummy Mountain, 11,500 feet. So I'm actually altitude climatized to 11,500 feet. And the summit of Gas Peak is 7,000. So that's going to work well. However, the challenge of Gas Peak is that it is about a 30-mile round trip. Gas Peak is just massive. And so I'm going to go up the left side. You see the little opening between those two mountains, Gas Peak the larger, and then Castle Rock, I believe, is the smaller one. Go right up between, after trekking through the desert here, take a right on the back side of Gas Peak and head to about a spot just about between that knob that I was showing you just a moment ago and the western summit of Gas Peak, which is the next knob. So there's an ascent that goes straight up, no switchbacks, just straight up. And I'll be taking that ascent up an avalanche slope. Get to the top, I'll emerge right between the two knobs right here. And I love that spot where I emerge, because then you see all of a sudden opening in front of you is all of Las Vegas, and it's and all along the top there. Once I turn toward the summit, when I reach the top there, a lot of the time I'm going to be able to see what you look at. A view of Las Vegas you can only see from an airplane. It's just incredible. So we'll see that, and then on up to the summit, and then turn around back. I'm predicting right now it's 6:38, it'll be 6:40 by the time I actually start. I'm predicting about 5 hours to the summit and 3 hours back. So we'll see how that timing works today. So, and by the way, I was thinking I'd still be in the Charleston Wilderness, but suddenly it snowed last week. And the area I was on the northeast approach to Mummy Mountain, I made the summit of Mummy Mountain, but that avalanche slope that I was climbing just last week is now buried in snow. And I'll show you some shots of that from up on Gas Peak. So yeah, it's pretty cold here. I better get going. Oh, here's a quick one. Why am I so cold right now? 41 degrees. You might say, well, just dress warmly. Actually, I'm going to be doing some running, and I always dress when I'm running, when I'm on an adventure. I always dress for how I will feel comfortable in about an hour after my body is warmed up. So I'm not continually taking clothes off and putting layers back on. So that's why I'm cold right now. I need to warm myself up with my own body heat system. We're at the first feature of any note here on this course, and that it's basically you hit the power lines and a wash. And by the way, speaking of wash, why would they have this wash in dry land? Well, last week during a downpour in the Las Vegas area, I was driving down a street, Farm Road, and I saw something I have never seen before in my life. There was a drainage, one of those little graded drainage openings on the street. And first of all, Farm Road, the right side of the road had turned into a flowing river in this downpour. And out of that drainage, I don't know if I'd call it a ditch, but a culvert, whatever it is, was shooting upwards a geyser of water about 3 or 4 feet, but still water going in the opposite direction than what it needed to go. And that's how quickly the rain occurs here in the Las Vegas area, and this ground is not capable of absorbing the rain because it's dry and it's baked and hard surface. And so that's why these ditches and these washes that have been created in order to channel the water. And here is, you can see up in this direction the gun range. Disneyland of gun ranges, I think. I've never seen such an elaborate gun range. People camp there, bring their RVs, and if you're into shooting, which I'm not, but if you're into shooting, this is like the place to go. It's just amazing. Clark County gun range. Anyway, so this area I just crossed, well, here you can see starting to emerge Las Vegas Strip. And we'll see that. That's part of the fun of this trip, is that you see Las Vegas just unfold before your eyes. And looking back this way, I have every reason to believe that within 10 years all this is going to be houses. It may end at this ditch area. On the other hand, it may continue to where you see the incline starting. It looks a little more grassy, and the ground suddenly inclines. Las Vegas could go all the way to that area, and then maybe even, well, I don't think it can go up the incline, because that then has the entrance to the largest wildlife refuge in the lower 48 states, Desert National Wildlife Refuge, which encompasses not only Gas Peak, but also the Sheep Range, which we'll see more of as we go further up. And then another thing here is that not only will I be potentially in 10 years, we'll be in a lot of houses, but there may, in addition, I've heard rumors that the military may be taking over this area again in the future, and then blocking it off. So what we're seeing today could be a rare vision of Las Vegas area before it was turned into a residential area, and then further on up where you can't even go because it's a military area. So right now you can experience all of this, but there may be a time when this is not possible. Anyway, another thing is the Tule Springs. This is, I'm pretty much equivalent to Durango, not Durango. What would it be? The end of Durango. There's another street that's not fully built out, and you can see it right here. It'll probably be asphalt, houses all over this area at some point. And but if you look on the other side of this culvert, and we'll get a better look at it later, there is a little rocky area up there, which is the Tule Springs fossil area. And in fact, Gas Peak has been called Fossil Mountain because there are reportedly on the other side of Gas Peak, we'll see this before the end of the winter, we'll check it out to see if it's actually true that there are entire intact woolly mammoth skeletons that are visible rising above the ground. Well, that could be Las Vegas legend, or it could be true. We'll find out before the end of the winter. So anyway, that's a good 360 of where we are right now, and getting cold again, so I gotta keep running. Okay, here we go. Okay, the second feature in this area, this is really flat land because I've probably gone about a mile and have not, let's see, here's the area that I've just passed. I have not ascended 1 foot altitude wise, but here's the second feature, and this is the Tule Springs fossil beds, and you can see it stretching down. There's a wash going that direction, and then from this direction, this is looking toward the Tule Springs fossil area, and you can see a few little outcrops, banks along the wash here, and very popular area for fossil hunting. And so after being in flatland, I'm going to cross this, and then things will level off a little bit, and then we begin a steady incline up to this point where we take a right when we get around the other side of Gas Peak. There's Gas Peak, and we go around the back side of Gas Peak and then emerge right up in this area between those two knobs, and then we head on up toward the summit of Gas Peak, which is right there. The snow level is about 6,000 feet. Gas Peak is 7,000 feet. So we might encounter some snow on the other side of Gas Peak. Maybe not. I'm hoping not, because that just tends to slow things down a bit. Since this is a 30-mile round trip, every bit of energy I can conserve is important, and slogging through snow is not conserving energy. So, okay, onward and upward. Oh, let's see. Should we do a 360-degree view? There's the gun range at the base of Gas Peak. Well, there's not much to see in this direction. I do have a point of reference to get back, which I'll show you a little later. There's La Madre Mountain right there, and the La Madre Mountain Wilderness. And there is, oh, let's take a look at this. Here's Mummy Mountain. And you see those two bands of snow right in the center. That is what I call Delta Canyon. And the one to the left is where I ascended, and you can see in the southeast Mummy Mountain page where there's that frightening cliff that I ascend, looking for an easier route that's not so exposed. I took the let's see, no, actually the left of those two washes. That is the frightening spot. The right of the two washes goes up a very gradual, nice, well, it's gradual, but very, very steep avalanche slope. No exposure. Got all the way to the top last week. Of course, there was no snow, and the reason I'm trying that is because in the six-peak circuit, I would start out going up Harris Mountain, which is somewhere in that area. Then, yeah, I think this is Harris Mountain right in the center, and then behind it, that pointy mountain, is Griffith Peak. So I'd go from Harris to Griffith, and then across the south ridge of Kyle Canyon to Charleston. And I'll show you this later when I've got a better view as we get higher. And then from Charleston, the third peak, over to Lee Peak, and then to Mummy Mountain, and then slide down that right band of snow. Well, actually, it'll be a wash next July, and no snow on it. I'll kind of walk, slide, whatever I need to do to get down that, and then over to the sixth peak, which will be, yeah, it's right in the center. It is Fletcher Peak, and then back to the trailhead. About 28 miles, and I'll describe this in a little more detail when you can actually see all the peaks a little later, get higher on Gas Peak area. So here you have it, and heading up to that area where it starts to incline, and then between the two mountains. Yay, I just passed Tule Wash, which is the kind of a little annoying area section of the run, because you're going up and down these hills and little drop-offs, not much to speak of, but still up and down, up and down, up and down. And by the way, let's take a look. There is Tule Wash, and you can see where the ground ahead here is not level. Anyway, and by the way, speaking of level, we are at exactly the same altitude as when we started. So there, now we're kind of leveling off a little bit. We'll be entering the Desert National Wildlife Refuge soon, and heading on up between Gas Peak here in the center and Castle Rock. And our target is this spot right here, where we're going to turn right and head up the backside of Gas Peak. So, and you'll notice that there, I'll show a little later, but there are some huge barrel cacti that begin to emerge, and then you'll notice that there's yucca plants, and then after that we go into a Joshua tree forest. So lots of interesting desert plant life in this next stretch, and change as we go up in altitude. Okay, onward. I want to talk about some of the surface challenges in this part of the adventure, and pretty much on up to the summit of Gas Peak. And here you have it. No trail and lots of rock like this, and bushes to weave around as we continue on up to that area between the two mountainous areas. Castle Rock on the left and Gas Peak on the right. And how do I manage a surface like this? Well, there's a problem, because if you use boots, then yeah, it'll protect you. You can get a really thick sole and it'll protect you from these rocks. However, it's hard to run. And your feet are heavy, and they're pretty much just encased in this boot that doesn't let you, use your ankles and all your agility that is naturally built into the human body. So the other side of the challenge is, okay, let's try track shoes. Well, track shoes are great. They give you all the agility that you need, but they do not protect you very well from this kind of stuff, which over time, I mean, you hit this thousands of times, thousands of strides, tens of thousands of strides, and it can really damage your feet. So what I found is a happy medium where I put blue gel insoles into track shoes. The blue gel actually causes the impact to go out horizontally rather than vertically into your foot, and so that gives me the ability to, I've got a full-length blue gel insole. I use Dr. Scholl's rather than these sports insoles, which also, the problem with the sports insoles are that they give too much of a foot. They feel like they've got to realign your foot, and so they have all these fancy arches and stuff that are not good for me. So I just use the plain blue gel insole, and then I put a heel pad, blue gel heel pad, and if I'm on a really sharp rocky area, I strike the heel first just to absorb the shock, but I like to land on midfoot because that's better anatomically. And you can see on the technique page, I've got a video that I put together on running technique that describes why that is so. So anyway, yeah, that page is on LasVegasAreaTrails.com. And so anyway, that's my strategy for getting through areas like this at a run without destroying my feet. So onward we go. Landscape. You see creosote bushes all around. Notice how they're kind of evenly spaced. They put out a poison and thus keep other creosote bushes at a pretty even distance. Put out a poison through their root system. Creosote is named due to the fact that it smells like the creosote that is used to treat wood, like telephone poles. And who knows, they may stop making telephone poles out of wood. But anyway, it's the same kind of smell. And then here's our first yucca plant. There will be more yucca plants that emerge as we go upward. And a little up ahead is the fence demarcation line for the Desert National Wildlife Refuge, and we'll take a look at that too as we continue upward. Anyway, continuing on up through the yucca area. I'm hearing shots from the Clark County Gun Range right in this area. So starting out early, I guess. Well, not that early. It's 7:55 right now. We've gone about an hour and 15 minutes from our starting point. So, and you know, minus about 15 minutes for videos. So, anyway, onward and upward. Okay, we are at the border of the Desert National Wildlife Refuge. When we cross this fence, we will be in the largest wildlife refuge in the lower 48 states, and it contains Gas Peak and the Sheep Mountain Range. You see the very tip of the Sheep Mountain Range, that snow-covered mountain in the background there. And then here's Castle Rock, and here is Gas Peak. And the Sheep Mountain Range is named for bighorn sheep. It's this whole area was preserved in order to protect the bighorn sheep. And we won't see any bighorn sheep, I don't think. The Gas Peak area, you got to go to the sheep range to see those. But anyway, here we are, demarcation point where we enter the Desert National Wildlife Refuge, right past this fence. Okay, so onward to that pass between the two mountains, straight in the center. We're now ascending at a rate of about 100 feet every 5 minutes, going up that slope that you saw earlier. I promised you huge barrel cacti, and there you can see some in the distance, but here's one up close. And my hiking sticks, I just realized, have worn down to about 4.5 feet. I need to get some new hiking sticks, but you can see how huge this barrel cactus is. Anyway, the hiking sticks are made out of last year's yucca stalks. When I pick them up, I make sure I've spread the seeds, and then I have just the stalk. And I take some jute string and wood glue, and I wrap the ends. Makes a great handle. At first it's a little sharp and scruffy, but very soon it wears down and makes a beautiful handle. And you can see here where you can see the strategy here. I wrap around, and then I also have a one string that goes all the way up and circles around. And these have actually lasted me. They were about 5.5 feet, so they're about 1 foot longer. About 1.5 years ago, on every single hike I have taken these, and they've helped me up avalanche slopes, and you can see they only have worn down 1 foot over about 1.5 years or more. And going over this kind of surface very often. So very strong, and they also make it possible for me to vault over rocks and cushion my descent. So it's a very good way of not only remaining stable, but saving myself from a lot of jarring that could create injury over time. And so anyway, here we are. You can see we've got yucca trees. This is about as close as we're going to get to a yucca tree forest. And then the first Joshua trees are up ahead. We'll take a look at that as it changes. But there's Gas Peak, and we're continuing on up right through the passageway between these two rocky areas. Okay, and by the way, we'll do a 360-degree view now, and you can see that our rate of ascent has opened up a lot of view here. There's the Mount Charleston Wilderness, and there we have Gas Peak on the left and Mummy Mountain on the right. And then in this, just to the left of Mummy Mountain, Fletcher Peak, and immediately behind Fletcher Peak you can see Mount Charleston beginning to emerge. So, and then we continue looking around here, and you see Las Vegas Valley opening up beneath us, and the first decent look at the Strip. So there you have the 360-degree view, and like I said, about 100 feet every 5 minutes at this point we're starting to ascend. It's still gradual compared to the avalanche slopes on Mummy Mountain, so it's actually kind of nice, except for the the rocky surface here and dodging the bushes. Okay, onward. Continuing on up between the two mountains, and we're starting to see some additional changes here. I'm not sure, but I think we might be beginning to see our first Joshua trees. And let's move around. You can see some of the cacti here. Definitely the plant life is changing. We're at a point between yucca, upper yucca, and lower Joshua. Okay, and here you can see Gas Peak emerging into sharper view, and the summit is actually right up there. You can see a little radio tower. That is the summit of Gas Peak. What looks like a higher point on the to the left is actually lower than the summit. The summit is in the background there. Let's see. Well, let's look around, and you can see the Las Vegas Strip coming into better view, except it's so hazy. You can see Las Vegas Valley opening beneath us here, Centennial Hills. Here is the La Madre Mountain Wilderness, and here's La Madre Mountain, which will be one of our goals soon. And you can see the newly snow-covered Mount Charleston Wilderness up here. And you see Gas Peak on the right, on the left, and Mount Charleston beginning to emerge on the right. And then to the right of Mount Charleston, well, right in front of Mount Charleston is still Fletcher Peak, and then Mummy Mountain here. And I don't know how the haze may change things, so I'm going to say it right now. You can see those two snow fields. Actually, there are three little bands of snow right in the center of Mummy Mountain. That is what I call the Delta Canyon, and I've gone up the left, I've gone up the right. Going up the left, there is a passageway, but it has a frightening cliff. On the right, it is very steep, but gradual, no exposure, and that's going to be my preferred approach to the summit of Mummy on the east side. And as a matter of fact, I'll say it right now, the strategy for the 6-peak circuit that will occur next July sometime is I head up to the summit of Griffith Peak, which is right, well, I start out about 2:30 the afternoon. And so I can head through the wilderness area to Harris Mountain, and then up the ridge that ends in that sharp peak, Griffith Peak, hit that around dark, and then I'm on good trails through the night. And I continue to the right along the top of the south ridge of Kyle Canyon between Griffith Peak and Charleston Peak, which is the snow-covered peak right in the center there. And I maybe hit that at 3-4 o'clock in the morning and head over to Lee Peak about 5:30 or so, and then over to Mummy Mountain. And then when I'm pretty exhausted, having accomplished 5 of the 6 peaks, that's when I head down that chute, which is the right wash there. You can see that band of snow, and I'll just be sliding, taking it easy, regaining my strength, and then head over to Fletcher Peak, which is right in front of Charleston Peak there. And then on down to the Trail Canyon trailhead. I will have parked at the Trail Canyon trailhead and headed over to, on the roads 1 mile, to the South Climb trailhead, where I hit Harris, Griffith, Charleston, Lee, Mummy, and then finally Fletcher Peak. Okay, so that is my 6-peak circuit strategy for this winter. There's La Madre Mountain, and La Madre Mountain is like in the middle of nowhere. And so I've got 4 potential approaches, 3 from the Red Rock Park area, Turtlehead Peak, Sandstone parking lot. And so one is to head over to Damsel Peak. And this is going to be the eastern, what I'll call the eastern approach. There's Damsel Peak. It looks like a crescent there. And then over across to La Madre Mountain. That's quite a long trek. Another approach is to go right up the south cliff of La Madre Mountain, which is, I haven't figured that out yet. But hopefully I'll figure that out. Another approach is to start at the Willow Springs parking area and head on up through La Madre Springs area and then straight up to the top of the Keystone Thrust, and take the western approach to La Madre Mountain. And then the fourth is the northern approach, which is on Kyle Canyon Road and just heading straight up. That's the first one I'm going to try. I haven't attempted it yet, but it looks like the closest approach. Again, no, my beast of a car cannot take any dirt gravel roads, and so my goal is to always start at an asphalt road, which makes for a longer trip. So anyway, that is the La Madre Mountain challenge. And one other addition to this challenge is what I'll call the legendary La Madre Loop, which goes up the east side and down the west side. It makes a big circuit. So that's 5 different runs that could take a number of times for each one in order to piece together that loop. But that's looking forward to that this winter. And so that's pretty much gives you an idea what we're looking at here. And so onward up through the gap there between the 2 mountains, and then around the backside of Gas Peak, and then up to the summit. Here's a little welcome respite from going up and down over rocky washes, crossing wash after wash. I finally hit a little road that's going to take us up between the 2 mountains here, and then on up to at least to the backside of Gas Peak, where we once again leave the roads for wilderness area. But this will be the next 2 or so miles of the trip on this kind of a road, which is much better than what the surface I've been on. So we're continuing along between the 2 mountains here and up across the backside of Gas Peak, and then up to the top. We're on the west side of Gas Peak. I love these little cactus rock gardens. If you were into landscaping in your backyard, this would be like the perfect landscaping, because you've got something that doesn't need any water. It doesn't need to mow the lawn. There's zero maintenance. And yeah, it has a beauty all of its own to have a rock garden like this. The only problem is that you would need to have a lot of sun and a lot of rock, and you'd probably have to wait about 50 to 100 years for the cactus to grow to this point. So no, it's not an option probably, but boy, it looks good up here. And then you look along this area and there's more cactus gardens. Just a beautiful area. The rock begins to appear, the rock of Gas Peak, and there is the western summit of Gas Peak. Right there we will be going around the backside of Gas Peak and summiting in that saddle between the western summit and the and this midpoint rocky outcrop, and then heading on up to the summit of Gas Peak. You'll see as we get closer. Still on a nice little road, except it has to go over this hill straight up. So that kind of adds a little bit of energy drain to the situation, but that's one of the few hills like that we'll be facing. So onward and upward. Well, here we are looking at the west side of Gas Peak. Soon we'll be circling around the back of Gas Peak, and then, as I said, taking a sharp right eventually and heading up the backside of Gas Peak. Okay, so we're on this road, and you may ask, well, if this road goes down to Las Vegas, why didn't I just take a vehicle here? Two reasons. One is that the beast can't handle a road like this. Secondly, there are no motorized vehicles allowed. Then why is the road here? It's for maintenance purposes only. So that's why I'm taking this route. Another question you might ask, why didn't I just go to the sheep range area and take a car, which you can, to the other side of Gas Peak? By the time I got there, to the trailhead on the other side of Gas Peak, it'd probably be about between 2 and 3 hours. And on the other hand, I'll be probably to that point between 3 and 4 hours. So it only takes me about an hour longer to do this run, walk, crawl up this Gas Peak area from the end of Rainbow. And it's kind of cool because I actually leave from my backyard and don't even use my car. So this is basically going up Gas Peak from where I live. So, okay, onward and upward. Okay, another demarcation here. This is a little fence. We're immediately between Gas Peak, the west side of Gas Peak, and the east side of Castle Rock, and you can see the fence goes all the way, just about all the way up Castle Rock there. Why the fence? I have a feeling it would be to keep the bighorn sheep in this reserve and outside of Las Vegas, where they wouldn't have too much luck with their lives. We are also in a Joshua tree forest. You can see that the plant life has changed. We've got some yucca plants, but we're in the midst of Joshua trees now, and they'll get thicker as we continue on up. There is the Las Vegas Valley straight ahead, and this is where we begin to circle around the backside of Gas Peak, and then we will shoot straight upward, show you that spot. It's pretty remarkable. Okay, so onward and upward. Oh, by the way, one thing I want to add is that this road actually circles around to the mid backside of Gas Peak, and I guess it would circle around all the way to the main trail to the summit of Gas Peak, which we're not going to take. And as it circles around the back of Gas Peak, it continues a gradual uphill. So we will continue to gain altitude, but no avalanche hills until the very back of Gas Peak, where we shoot straight up. And we are at, we've gained 1,400 feet so far, mostly in the last little over an hour. We've been going for nearly 3 hours. And so there was a lot of flat area at the beginning. Give you a little perspective. Had I been in the Mount Charleston wilderness and started at the South Climb Trail, took the road 1 mile down to the Trail Canyon trailhead, and then head on up to Fletcher Peak, 10,300 feet, I would have actually, in the time it has taken me to get to this point, I would have summited Fletcher Peak and been a good way toward the summit of Mummy Mountain. So big distances here. It's deceptive, but the energy expenditure I put out just getting to this point, 3,400 feet. I would have been on my way to the second summit in the Mount Charleston Wilderness at that point. Okay, onward. Continuing on up, here's the northwest side of Gas Peak, and we're going to continue on along the north side until we take a sharp turn right and head straight up Gas Peak. You'll see, very much straight up. You see the Joshua trees around us. And here coming into view is the sheep range. So very beautiful. I'll be doing some adventures up in the sheep range this winter. And there's some roads down there between the sheep range and Gas Peak. And continuing around, Joshua trees. Now you can see the Mount Charleston Wilderness and Castle Rock, and to the left of it is La Madre Mountain Wilderness. And then a look down at the Las Vegas Valley. We have ascended, it's around 1,800 feet at this point. And as I mentioned, had I been in the Mount Charleston Wilderness, I would have been up to the top of Fletcher Peak and then on my way toward Mummy. So here we are just at 3,700 feet at this point. And continuing on up. Well, we're now on the north side of Gas Peak. We've circled around to the north, and there's the Mount Charleston Wilderness straight ahead, and you're looking at the north side of Gas Peak on the left. And then circling around, here is the sheep range. And then in this valley, at the base of where we are, is where those mastodon or woolly mammoth skeletons are supposed to be. We'll check that out at some point, but today we're going to shoot for the top of Gas Peak. And then here's the road I'm on. We're going to take a right up what I'm going to call the mid-north Gas Peak Canyon, and it goes straight up to the northern summit. So we're continuing on now, and just give the rest of the 360-degree view. Here's along the north side of Gas Peak. So there you have it. Continuing on up, we've put 4 hours into this trip so far, and I would be, if I'd started on the Trail Canyon trailhead and then headed down to the South Climb trailhead 1 mile and then on up to Griffith Peak and then over toward Charleston, I would be probably halfway to Charleston at this point, or a good way toward Charleston. There you see the south ridge of the Kyle Canyon. I'd be along that, probably halfway to Mount Charleston, which is right in the center there, that snow-covered mountain. Instead, I'm still at the base of Gas Peak with 2,500 feet left to ascend. So there you have it, and definitely this is a energy demanding trip. Like I said, I would have already done almost half of the Mount Charleston loop. Okay, here we go. Okay, now begins something akin to a death march. It's straight up, no switchbacks for the next 800 feet up to that high point that you see in the background there. And so here we go. Hopefully I'm not going to encounter too much snow. I can see some snow around us. Don't want to encounter the snow because that could take additional energy away, cause a little slipping, and trying to balance myself. And that takes energy. So let's hope that we don't hit too much snow before we hit the top here. I'll be 1,000 feet below the true summit when I hit that level area in the background there. And also I'll have a really incredible view of Las Vegas, an aerial view of Las Vegas from the north. So we're looking forward to all of that. Here we go. Okay, here's a look down the Gas Peak Mid-North Canyon approach to the summit. And actually, even though, as you can see, I've ascended this, it only took about 10 minutes to get this far up. It's not as difficult as the horrifying half on the east and west side of Mummy Mountain. So it's just pretty much straight up, but there's good traction so far. And you can see, looking down at this hill, you can see etched in the snow some switchbacks. And these, I would guess, are the trails of bighorn sheep, maybe some kind of animal that is switchbacking all the way up the side of this mountain, and probably eating little bushes all the way up. And so there you see, we need to go around that area. So we got a ways to go. There's about 1,500 feet left of ascent, and our first ascent, of course, is going to be up to the top of this area here. You see that hill. From there, we'll be able to see Las Vegas in a spectacular view. So we continue on up. This is actually not too bad, and probably because last week I was at 11,500, acclimatizing myself to that altitude, and right now I'm at 5,400, almost 5,500. So feels good. I'm at the end of a climbing season in the Mount Charleston Wilderness, and so I've been up the higher altitudes for all during the summer, and some really steep climbs. So if any conditioning could prepare me for a successful Gas Peak summit, it's what I've been through up to this point. Getting around that snow, we're going to circle around the left side of this outcrop. The mistake I made last time was I decided I would go up to near the top of that outcrop and thought it would lead over to the summit, and I found that no, it led to a sheer drop off, and I was exhausted by the time I hit that. And so I was within probably less than a half mile and less than 500 feet of the summit when I was up there. Now, if I circle around a little lower, I may actually have the energy this time to make that summit. So we shall see what happens. Okay, here we go on up to the mid summit of Gas Peak, which is about 1,000 feet below the true summit. Okay, here we are looking down that mid-north approach canyon to the summit of Gas Peak. And you can see the sheep range, and there's some roads down there in the distance. Let's see, let's take a look. A lot of four-wheel drive roads around the backside of the sheep range. Of course, we're going to be doing a lot of this on foot from the visitor center later this winter, and see how high we can get in the sheep range. Total altitude up there at the top is around 10,000 feet. Okay, so that's that. Now, watch this. This is one of the most incredible moments in any of my adventures. So, looks like you're just coming up on a little hill here. So here we go, up the hill, and whoa, look at this. There is Las Vegas in all its glory. From an aerial view from the north of Las Vegas, you got to be in a airplane to see a view like this. It's pretty hazy. We hopefully will see a clearer view on the way back when the sun's at a different angle. And then circling around, you can see, Red Rock Park is over in that direction, and La Madre Mountain Wilderness. Let's see, just a minute. Put these down. Here we go. There's La Madre Mountain. And continuing to circle, oh, by the way, Red Rock Park. You can see, if you look carefully, you can see Mount Wilson straight through there on the other side of Red Rock Park. And okay, let's continue to circle around La Madre Mountain Wilderness, and then Mount Charleston Wilderness in this direction. And we'll see more of that on the way back. Maybe a more clear view. There's Griffith Peak, the south ridge of Kyle Canyon, Mount Charleston, Mummy Mountain right there. And you see that the snow washes. You see 3 of them there right in the center, fan out. That's what I call Delta Canyon, and that's where I was last week on the right wash, and went straight up to the top of Mummy Mountain, right up that right wash of Delta Canyon. So there's that. And of course, here is the western summit of Gas Peak, and over here the Sheep Range, and then right in front of us a little cairn that I created. Nobody comes up here, so that'll probably stay here forever unless there's some kind of a huge earthquake. And this marks the spot where I turn back down and head down the North Canyon of Gas Peak. And so that's pretty much it. Now we're looking at the, straight down here, you see that triangular shaped area that is the Clark County gun range. And now and then you can hear the guns popping. Hopefully no one has a long range gun or a missile, because I would make an awesome target. And we're gonna head along the left side of this rise up here, and then circle around to the summit of Gas Peak. Feeling really good at this point. I've had 2 power bars so far. I started out the morning with a slow burning bowl of oatmeal or just oats soaked in water, with a couple scoops of protein and a tablespoon of MSM and some chia seeds, and some and a scoop of smoothie powder. So pretty potent stuff, but about now I'm glad I did that. Okay, so the key is to get around and up over the left side of that rise up there. We'll see what happens. That's gonna tell the difference between actually making the summit and not making the summit. So here we go. Well, Gas Peak conquered me again. I got up and I couldn't find a way down around the lower area, which would actually could have been better, but not necessarily. So I kept heading up, and I got stuck on those snow slopes with cliff drop-offs underneath, and it just got to too crazy an incline on the snowbank. So anyway, we have ended this little experience. I was about 1,000 feet below the summit. I was about in the area up around this area, and I still needed to circle around. May have been possible, but the slopes were just too steep and the footing too precarious. So looks like we'll be living to tackle another day. We'll try Gas Peak again. Okay. Now heading back to the ridge straight ahead and then down the canyon and back home. And I predict it's going to be 12:30, 1:30, 2:30, 3, about 3 o'clock before we get back home. Just a quick look. I think Paiute Indian Reservation is straight ahead in that valley. That's one viewpoint that we haven't pointed out yet. There's the western summit of Gas Peak, and in between us and that western summit is that ridge that we summited just a bit ago. And then there's the sheep range right down through the Gas Peak North mid-approach canyon. Okay, heading back. Well, I'm getting ready to head back from the mid-summit of Gas Peak, and looking at my options. One option is try Gas Peak when there's no snow. That would be a good one, and possibility of summiting. Another option is circle around the bottom of Gas Peak and go up the main summit trail. Those are my two options of getting to the summit of Gas Peak. So it looks like it's going to be another saga this winter. All the different attempts of getting up Gas Peak. Every time I climb up here, I add a few rocks to the little cairn, and so maybe it's going to take me long enough to get to the top that this thing is going to be about 10 feet tall. Who knows? But anyway, it was untouched all last winter, and I doubt that it will be bothered anytime soon, because most people do not get up or don't even know to get up Gas Peak this way. And so this may be here for longer than I'm around. Who knows? Anyway, when you reach this cairn, that's the signal to head straight down the canyon for home. Okay, onward back to home, and then, oh, speaking of home, let's just take a look here. You see the triangle of the gun range? Look behind it to the right, and you see two squares of untouched land at the edge of the residential area. That second square that goes in further, and boy, I just can't see it from, with the light the way it's shining on the phone, but I'm hoping that you can see it. That second square on the right. If you look to the right side of that square, that is Silverstone Estates, and that is where home is. So who knows what actually shows here. Then if you look, you see a ribbon of a road down in the center there, and that's Highway 215, circling around the mountains, and there's just a lot of glare, so I'm not sure what is actually going to be visible. I can see nothing on the screen. I'm just aiming where I think these landmarks are. Let's see, we looked at the gun range, and on the left side of that triangle is Decatur Avenue. Straight down Decatur all the way into Las Vegas, and the strip is to the left down in there, and then continuing along, you're looking down toward the Henderson area now, and that pretty much gives you an idea where we are in terms of Las Vegas, if you can see anything. I hope you can see more than I can right now. Okay, well, it's time to head back. So we're gonna head back down the canyon here, take a left, go around the other side of Gas Peak and down, and we'll see how long it takes. It took me about 5 hours to get up to this point right here. I bet I can get down in 2.5 hours, but we'll see. It is now 1:30, 2:30, 3:30, 4. 4 o'clock would be 2.5 hours, half the time that it took to get here. Let's see what happens. Closing in on the return trip, and here is a much better view of the strip in the evening sun. So the question is, how do I find my way back through the desert and not end up off course and maybe going down Decatur instead of ending up at Rainbow? Well, there are two hills right about in the center of the screen here. And you can see the edge of the Silverstone residential area, and right behind that there's a square black building way behind, and behind that there are two hills. You barely see them in the distance, and those hills that make a V are my ultimate reference point as I'm heading back. So if you're ever out here in the desert and you need to get back to Rainbow Avenue, then look at those hills And if you're going to another destination, just look at the hills in the background. The hills do not move. And the hills are high enough that when you get down into the Tule Springs area and you're down in the washes, you can still look up and see the hills. So anyway, that's my reference point for getting back.